Here we go. Right, welcome everybody, and thank you for bearing with us. Sorry this has got a bit of a late start, but just welcoming everybody in. And if you've just joined us, you'll notice that people have been talking on the chat room, and please do continue to use that throughout this session. Because I'd love to have your thoughts and feedback, ideas, experiences, etc. on this session. So pop your questions on there as we go, and Tanya will shout at me as we go. And if you've got other questions, you may like to leave them to the end. There will be a short Q&A session too. I don't think this session is going to last too long. I think probably we'll fit everything in within the next sort of 30-35 minutes or so. I haven't rehearsed this one, but mainly because it's something that I'm very passionate about, that Just2easy does in absolute spades deliver on digital literacy for you. So we're going to be doing this in two parts. And first part this week is going to be focusing on writing, reading, collaboration and blogging. So what we're going to be doing in this session is we are going to look at digital competencies, what they are, and how we can ensure that our students develop those using online activities that are collaborative by nature. So how to develop digital competencies in collaborative activities. And in terms of how to support your students as a teacher to do that, as well as how to provide the tools to do that in a way that is safe and secure and easy for you to manage, because that's one of the most important things. So we're going to be showing you the digital competencies that Just2easy provides, how to do that with blogging, and how to manage that process too with your students. Firstly, before we get started on that, I noted on the European Commission for Digital Literacy, one of the 5 statements on digital literacy is communication and collaboration. So this is plucked from the EU website, the European Commission website on digital literacy. You all know this back to front anyway, but just as a reminder to me more than anything else, communication and collaboration part of digital literacy is to interact, communicate and collaborate through the use of digital technologies while being aware of cultural and generational diversity, and to be able to participate in society through public and private digital services and participatory citizenship, and to manage one's identity digitally and also your online reputation. That's the EU's take, and that applies to everybody. That doesn't just apply to students, but that's a general approach to citizenship and digital literacy. When we look at that from a Maltese perspective, these are the expected outcomes as stated from the Maltese government and the DLTS, which is that I, as a student, can use technologies and media to work in teams and collaborate in learning, which is what we're going to do today. I can collaborate with others and co-construct and co-create resources, knowledge and learning, which is also what we're going to do today. And it also says that as a student, I can function well in digitally mediated communities of practice. Really very good stuff. Okay, so what I have noticed out there is that there's an awful lot of different apps, online tools, pieces of software that do all of those things in various ways, shapes or form. All of them require a particular type of device or a login with a username and a password, all of which, as a teacher, if I was using these, I would need to have a login for me, a login for all of my students, and a way to see and capture everything that my students are doing. That by itself is a ridiculous ask of any teacher anywhere. And I'm pleased to say that the tools that we provide with Just2easy encompass the majority of the features that you're seeing on the screen here, which means that all of the tools that you can use in the tablets or on any device using Just2easy gives you the ability to do quite a lot of these things here, whilst at the same time knowing full well that your students have access to the same thing and are able to save their work so that you can see, track, feedback and assess and store and capture evidence of all of your children achieving these particular things. Things like Pixay, where you can put pictures on the screen and have them doing lots of different things. Simple Mind for mind mapping, Edmodo for an online platform, Comic Strip It, which needs no explanation, Padlet for online annotation and sharing information and collaboration, Hyperdocs, which does another thing in a very similar sort of way, WordPress, which is a way to have a blogging site, Wix is another way of doing that as well. All of those different things can be done using a couple of tools in Just2easy within your tool suite. And here I'm going to start first with the opportunities presented to you for collaboration. So before we get started, those of you that just might need a little reminder, in order for you and your students to log on to Just2easy, we've been here before, but I'm just going to mention it again because I always do, is in order to get onto Just2easy, you need to go to the website, which is simply j2e.com/Malta, and then choose your login if you're a state school or a non-state school. Press the button for either one of those, and it will then ask you for your credentials, either Microsoft or iLearn credentials, and you will be able to log in straight away. I log in through a different system, which isn't single sign-on, unfortunately, but it means that I'm going to be doing everything in the next 15-20 minutes or so using a demo site. If you like the look of anything that you see in my demo site and you'd like further ideas from that, I'm very happy to share them with you. So that's why I don't log in exactly the same way as you. Just as a reminder as well, because all of your students have access with their own username and password, they get their own My Files, which is the online storage space that whatever it is that students do, they will store it automatically in their own My Files, and you as the educators get to see your class and all of your students by clicking on the folder for your class, and you'll see your students, and then you'll be able to dip in and see all of the things that your students have been doing within Just2easy. Now that could be either uploading a document, creating a picture or a poster or some writing or a book in Just2easy, whatever it is, you'll see it here always. And you can even add to that if you would like, and you can also provide feedback to your students too. So that's how Just2easy captures everything that your students are doing, and you then have full evidence of everything that under the sun that students have ever done using J2E. For your students on their laptops or tablets, etc., I am going to be looking at for collaboration first, a tool called J2E5. Every day this tool tends to surprise me and amaze me with all of the different things that you can do with it. And it is simply just a version of a desktop publishing software, a publishing solution, a word processing solution with some really lovely bells and whistles designed for education. Here you can use it for any subject, either as an educator to start the learning process with perhaps a worksheet to instigate or provoke your students into a learning task. So you could create an activity by saying, this is maybe, for example, story creation activity. If you could type, I can't type clearly. And I'll also need to capitalize that, where you can put anything on the screen, make it bigger or smaller, reposition it anywhere you want on the screen and leave it there to then start the activity. Then you lay out the instructions for your class. For example, which would be, this is your fiction story. Let's begin with a dark, snowy night. Now, if I do this, it could equally have been a maths activity or an English activity or a science activity, just happened to be something off the top of my head. Once I've saved this, and I need to give it a name, when I save it as an educator, it's gonna save it to my own my files. So I'm going to call this new story starter. Now I could have perhaps added some additional scenes in order to provoke a reaction and get something in the hearts and minds of my students whilst they're doing this task. So I might want to search for an image and just drag that in from the internet. You could just drag something in from the desktop, but I'm going to use the inbuilt search to do that, which is using the image button, and then to click on the globe will allow you to then search for something off of the internet. So here are some beautiful images that we might like to use. Wow, oh, a typical Halloween-y type picture. There we go. No snow, but that's a nice picture to get your children started with. Let's save that. Whoops, we're going to come to that button later. Let's save that. Now, I did say that that's gone back to my own My Files area. Once I've created that as the starter activity, what I need to do is then share that with my students. How I do that is by going into my own My Files, clicking on the little green I button, clicking share, and then choosing who I want to use this document. Now, all I've ever explained to people on these sessions with you guys is how to just share that so that they have their own copy of it. If I just want to share that with one student, I can say Eli, and it'll search for Eli. There's Eli. Click enter, and he's there. So that's just shared with Eli. Or alternatively, I could share it with a specific class. So I could just go to a class, and that means instantly that class will be able to have access to it for themselves. Because I have selected that as a worksheet, it means that in this instance, that worksheet will be something that they will save for themselves, and I will see that in their own My Files, Pupil Files area, sorry. However, what I would like to do in an instance in this is, for example, I might like to get children to work in groups so that I can let them collaborate together on a document. How I do that is, rather than just leaving it as Eli, I might want to type in and say, you know, Josh has access to this and Tanya. So I've now got 3 students, Josh, Tanya and Eli, who are all able to see this document only, but instead of it being a worksheet which they take and use for themselves, they can use it as a collaborative document. And all I need to do is click save, which means that this new story starter document activity resource that I have created is now editable at the same time by everybody I've shared it with. So if I go to a, whoops, not that screen. If I go to another window and I log in to my site as in the same school, and I log in as Tanya, for example, Tanya now has in her shared files area the new story starter, which then Tanya can open and can start to add things in. So Tanya can then begin to start typing, it was a dark night, the wind was howling, and the cold made the wolf shiver. Let's put that in red. Now, going back into the document from a teacher's point of view, you'll see that there is somebody collaborating in that document already. We see that Tanya is already in there. And you see, I'm logged in as a teacher on one version of my computer, and Tanya is logged on to another. The writing that Tanya has done appears there as well. So if I can't really demonstrate that in two screens at the same time, but if there were more people participating at the same time, you would actually see everybody doing whatever it was that they were doing within that document at the same time. So it's inline real-time collaboration on any activity that you want to create. That in itself is a really easy function to do. And whilst the teacher is in there as well, you'll be able to see, now I've got this feature switched on here. That means that I could just have that pinned to the page, so I can have that open all the time. And that there is also a collaborative chat box here, meaning that really struggling to type and speak at the same time today. So you can actually see that there is a chat facility that can go alongside this, which both Tanya and the teacher will be able to see. And there you go. So you can see that appearing on the screen now. And this window here is the window that I've got incognito for Tanya. And I'll go, hello, Mr. Cameron. Now, this is the definition of losing it, isn't it? Talking to yourself in a chat room, on a document, in a webinar. So now that is something that the teacher can control to say whether the teacher wants to have that switched on or off. And as I said, a collaboration on this could take place in the form of a science activity. So you could have children working in groups when they were doing a science experiment. For example, a teacher could record themselves on video, upload that into J2E, and drag it into a document like this, so that if I had a video of myself here, for example, let's just make that a little bit bigger. So there's a video of me. There you go. One of those embarrassing videos I did the other day. I could add that onto the page as the instruction to your class as a brilliant asynchronous activity. Give that to the students, they could see, and they could even contribute to the audio and video as well in real time. Now, just as an aside on this, you may be a little cautious about using the in-chat feature in J2E5. If you're a little bit worried about doing that, there is a way to stop it, because if you go to the dashboard for your school, the first thing that you get into, I went there a bit quick, didn't I? Sorry, let me just show that to you again. On the launch pad for J2E, for teachers only, there is a tile here called dashboard, which is this one with the little meter dashboard sign on it. If you click on that, it'll give you the option to change some settings for your site, which means that you can choose whether you want children to chat whilst collaborating in J2E5. If you switch that off, that chat feature that I've shown you in the J2E5 tools won't work, so they won't be able to see the chat taking place at all. They will still be able to collaborate on that document, but they won't be able to chat. Okay, let's just take that away. Now, one of the things that I thought of, which was quite fun in terms of collaboration activities, is a bit of a fun thing that I mentioned earlier on as one of the other apps that are out there that is called a comic strip. And here's one that I made just in the half an hour before this presentation. I really was struggling with this as to what the comic should actually be about. So I just decided to take a picture of myself and put it on a comic strip. But how great would it be for children to be able to do something like this in J2E as a literacy activity, as a digital literacy activity too? And say, for example, all I've done is I've put on the page some comic strip boxes, and then I used the picture button. Here it is again. Let's do this again. And I can play directly with the effects. I can change the effects just to see what the difference it makes. Let's do that max. Whoa, that doesn't work so well. There we go. Quite like that. And I could always add another effect on top as well if I wanted to, so I could perhaps add some hue and change the colors. There we go. That's just me instantly making some improvements to myself. There we go. And I could add that to the page. And then I can just drag that into the box and maybe crop it so that it fits inside the box properly. Again, if I want to make this a collaborative document, I've already shown you one way that you could do that, but an even easier way is to make it a collaborative document while you are still working in it. And how I do that is simply this. So I create a new J2E5 document, I start typing in it, and then this button lights up and it says share. And you get it just in exactly the same way. I can choose who to share that with. I'm going to share it with Tanya, and I'm going to make it a collaborative document. You must remember to do that. And then Tanya will then be able to see that document and start working in that document with me as well. So that, in essence, is the very simple nature of making a document collaborative so that students can work in it together. It doesn't stop there though, because there's another tool that will do more collaboration, and I've done this with teachers already in Malta, which is the J2 Data tool. Now, I mentioned about using J2E5 across the curriculum for all sorts of purposes: history, English, maths, science, etc. For working in and collaborating in. The same can be done for databases, specifically for science or geography or maths, or even again for English, because students can create a database themselves and then share that with other people for interaction and participation. So did you know that on your tablets that you've got, a child can make an actual database, not just a spreadsheet, but an entire database, searchable database, and have other children enter information into that database without leaving J2E? How it's done is this. If I make a new database, I can put in any field of any type I want, such as name. It's always a useful one to put in there. And then we can have age. We can then change it to a date or a number. We could have a selfie, so we could actually let people put in pictures or sounds or videos, or all sorts of different things. We can be there a long time doing that. Once you've saved that, so new database, that will save into my files. There's that new database. And yes, I can then share that with anybody I like, classes or users. And if I want to allow them to actually add information to it, I need to just tick that button, which then means that anybody that I've shared that with will be able to go into that database and add information to it. And of course, once that database has been completed, say, for example, let me just go back in there again for a second. If I go into J2 data, and I'm going to look at some examples just for a second, and we'll look at we'll look at countries, for example. So this might be a geography exercise where each student has contributed some research into a specific country. They have discovered the area and the population. They've selected the main language. They've found a flag, done a bit of extra research into what currency they use. So this is an example which has got a number of entries in it. We could look at the data in a spreadsheet or table form, but we could also then chart that information. Equally, this could be the results of an experiment that's happened in the classroom or the independent research that your students have done, where we could then plot maybe country name against population, or we could look at that in a pie chart form. So let's have a look at it in pie chart form, and we'll see that clearly there's two main winners there in terms of population size, but we could even save the image from that bit of research, from that part of the activity, which could have been a collaborative activity itself. And then that image is saved into my files right there. If I click on the little green I button, I could say use in J2E. So therefore, I could put the results of the experiment into my country research, save that file, and then share this as a collaborative document with a specific group of students, which means we've then got everything going on a collaborative nature. We've got the collection of information happening collaboratively, where children can input the information that they found from the web or from asking relatives and families all into one database. Then they can research that database collaboratively by looking at the information that's in the table. And then they can make either their own independent write-ups, draw their own conclusions from that, or they could do that collaboratively with other children in a group. Are there any particular questions about that part of it whilst I have a quick sneaky slurp of water?
Someone is typing a question. Okay, let me ask. Just in time, you predicted, can a collaborative database be made private again after the necessary data has been inputted?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Yes, it can, so that the students can all just save their own work and leave it there so that they've got their own stored evidence in their My Files, in their Pupil Files. Yep, all you need to do is, if you've got the database there and you want to not let the students have it as a collaborative database anymore, you just go into the database or whichever file it was, and you say share, and you untick their ability to do it. Or in the case of the J2E5 document, if I go to share, just pop it there on the screen again, and it'll turn it into a worksheet. So you just change it, you toggle it off from collaborative document to worksheet, and that will then stop the collaborative nature of the document, but it will mean that they have still got their own record of the document. And what is really interesting is that, say, for example, we've story creation activity that I did. At the bottom, gosh, that looks an absolute mess right now, sorry. At the bottom of the document, you've got revision versions of it, which actually shows you the iterative nature of that document progressing. So you can actually look back at each different save point and see where each of your students got to and who's contributed to that document as well. So you can see who's saved work, who hasn't saved work in that document. So hopefully it'll give you an opportunity to keep track of the different revisions, not only to see who the input has come from, but to see how that document has progressed. That in itself is a learning opportunity to show students through a period of reflection as to how they got to the point of where they got to, and to reflect on the process that they went through to do that. Okay, so now I've got a million tabs open. I'm going to just close a few of these down. You wouldn't obviously do all of these things all at the same time, which is why I tend to get a little bit bogged down with my comic strip.
Alistair, Janet
Yes.
asks, so can students each other's input too while they're collaborating, I'm assuming?
Yes, they can do. So that is why you would encourage, if you're working in the document, for students to actually click the save button as they go. So if they're making edits in a collaborative document, one of the best practices that they should be doing is clicking the save button on a regular basis. It's a life skill that I wish somebody had taught me when I was at school, because of the number of times I filled in bids, documents, tenders, etc., and lost a lot of work because I was very late and didn't press the save button. And in doing that, it will protect your work as well. It's also one of those things that is part of the learning opportunity in order for students to realize that the collaborative nature of the document is what's described as netiquette, and it's the ability for children to behave in an appropriate way whilst they're in an online environment. And netiquette can include, how you interact in a document all at the same time.
Janet has another question. Will the page change while saving for the other child who's still writing?
I don't know the answer to that question. Will the page save whilst the other student whilst another student is writing? If a student is in the middle of writing a new piece of text, I have to think about this. I probably do know the answer. If the student is in the middle of writing a piece of text and another student, Tanya was writing some text in the middle of writing a sentence and I saved it first, it would save what I've done, but it wouldn't save what Tanya had contributed into it until the next time I go into that document or refresh my page, because if I do that, it will then show Tanya's contribution to it. Okay, so I'm going to move on now, and we're going to talk about blogging. Yeah, if you want to test that out, that would be fabulous. Do test it out. I'm 99% sure that's the case with this. That's one of the fun things of J2E. There's so many things that you can do with it. I'm now going to go on to blogging, and it's one of those things that a lot of teachers, and I quite rightly understand why teachers may feel this way. It's something that a lot of teachers tend to be a bit fearful of because of the utter perceived loss of control of what happens in blogs. And I'll be honest, sometimes, especially if you're using things like Wix or WordPress, they're incredibly difficult to set up. And I, as a ed tech evangelist, even struggle to set up a proper WordPress site for me or for other people. We've got all of the features and tools to be able to do that, and I've delivered many times based on blogging and the nature of collaboration through blogging, with teachers around the world, and a lot of teachers don't necessarily know too much about what blogs are. So just for the uninitiated, I'm sure you guys all know what you're doing, but blogs are in essence a website that has information that's either by one person or a group of people that write about things that are interesting to them, relevant, that other people can then read, because it's either a public blog or a blog that you're invited to join. And some examples of those are things that you might have heard of, like WordPress, like Wix, like Mashable, like Gizmodo, Lifehacker, Guido Forks, etc. And there are some fabulous blog sites out there for educators. Who knew? And these are this one particularly is a favorite of mine, Guru Teacher from at Teacherhead Consulting, and this is just a blog written by a few authors, mostly by Tom because he's the consultant behind it, but he writes a lot of wonderful posts about things such as big impact, recommended books for educators, ideas of roundups for collecting ideas of doing things, mind mapping and all sorts of things. And you can read these blog posts, and oftentimes, because this is a private one, you can look at the blog posts and then you can even leave a reply. And what it'll do is ask you, so this is actually on I believe this is on a Drupal website, which is quite difficult to set up as well. But in order to leave a comment, because I'm just a member of the public, I'd need to put my name and my own website in there as well. So it's quite a lot of information. From a blog perspective, very useful site for me as an educator to come to get some best practice and some ideas, etc. For a student's perspective, blogging is a fabulous tool because it puts the authenticity into writing for a student. What I mean by that is a student then writes for an audience that can be a global audience, truly digital citizenship at play. What it means then further to that is that students have, how do I put it? Students have a sense of ownership and greater responsibility, and as soon as they see that their first piece of work that they've got has been put onto a blog, it's like the magic lights of fame switch on, and children go through this process of going, ooh, I'm actually pretty good at doing this, I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it better or differently or on a different style or vein. And that can only encourage students to produce better pieces of work. But then it goes on to the next level at the point at which, and you'll all experience it, the first time a piece of work that you get to put on a blog has somebody then comment on it and recognize you for the work that you've put onto a blog is awesome. I guarantee it will put a smile on your face. And the feeling of elation and recognition that you get from it is absolutely brilliant. Nobody can deny, if you're on Twitter or Facebook or any social media channel, the pointer or Instagram or heaven forbid TikTok, the moment somebody presses that like button, there's a little sense of pride. And that's the same for children here. Why not give all of those opportunities for collaboration to your students in an environment that is safe? You know, things like Pixay as an example tool are great at what they do, which is creating pictures, just like J2E5 does with documents and pictures and sounds, just like J2E does. But Pixay, for example, actually actively encourages you to post those things on TikTok or WhatsApp or Instagram, all of which are inappropriate for the age of your students. So it's not an ideal tool. J2E does all of that for you in an environment which is safe, that promotes the feeling of participation, the feeling of recognition, and can also encourage collaboration too. So blogging is fabulous for collaboration. We're going to go into more of that in the next session. It's great for special educational needs because it means that children have an opportunity to listen to things that their classmates are doing in audio format or in large print format too. And it's great for developing skills. Children can blog at any age in J2E, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And it's also great for gifted and talented to showcase the amazing things that your gifted and talented students are doing. And it's also fabulous for parents because they can see what their child or the rest of the class is doing, has done, will be doing in the future too. So let's go back into J2E and I'm going to show you very simply how to do this. You can blog from JIT for the younger years children. You can blog from J2E5 for any age, and you can blog from J2 Office. And because I can't remember off the top of my head, yes, I didn't think you could do that. I didn't think you could blog from there, but you can blog from those two main tools. So JIT and J2E5 are the primary tools that you'll be able to do to make a blog post. How students do this, it's very simple. I'll start with just one of these tools, which is, for example, JIT5 writing. So a student comes along and starts writing a story. Better still, I'm going to do that as Tanya as a student. So I'm going to log in as Tanya. So now I'm logged in as Tanya, and Tanya is going to write a story. My day at the beach. And as Tanya has already boasted, it's a lovely day out there and a freezing cold day here. So I'm going to run with this theme. Tanya will save her work because that's what her class teacher will have told her to do so that it then sits in her portfolio. But Tanya also has the option, no matter what tool it is, whether she's painted a picture, done some animation work, counted on the pictogram, done a storybook here in Mix. All of these tools are the same here. The Save tool is the same, but next to the Save tool is the Publish button. Tanya can press the Publish button whenever she wishes. And what it says on the screen here is this. It says that has been posted to J2 Webby. Hold your horses. No, it hasn't. Not just yet, because underneath it says your work will be shown in the blog once your teacher has approved it. And that means you as the teacher of the class will have a button to click when you log into J2E next. And the same goes for Tanya if she creates a poster in J2E5, for example. My favorite insect, for example. I'm going to save that work called Ladybird. So Tanya has saved her work, and then in J2E5 has the publish button too. But look, we can call it whatever we want. We'll leave it as that Ladybird. Tanya, because she's in year 3 and 4, that's the particular class name, appears there automatically, and she can then publish that work to J2 Webby. And again, it says exactly the same thing there. What that means is, let's just close that down. If I go back to, whoops, if I go back to J2E, I've got one button on the screen there that has suddenly changed. There is a number 3 button against the moderate tool. And that is the number of things that you, as the class teacher, need to have a look at in order for their work to be published. And it's very simple and very straightforward. And I'm going to give you some examples of it before I go to the next step. So I'm going to park it there for a minute and come with me on a journey to Malta. You're already there. I have a little bit further to go. In Malta.
Wow, proset Ġane. Look at Marsa Scala. And Sonia as well. It's here we've got two from Marsa Scala Saint 10. Brilliant.
Okay, let's have this has changed today. I'm sure it has. So we have a look at St Thomas More. I haven't seen this yet.
And have you seen the banner, Tanya?
Oh, lovely, brilliant. Yes, that's great, isn't it?
Impressive.
Yes.
You see how beautiful is Marsa Scala? It's even more beautiful than Marsa Schlock. Look at it.
Lovely. So for those of you that are watching or watching again and don't know, what's happening here is that we at Just2easy have integrated WordPress into J2E, and it means that you don't need to worry about any WordPress setup, but it means that all of the class pages get put into the areas here. So you can see all of the different class pages, and then you can see the different pieces of work, but it's showing right now some wonderful pieces of work that have been published by the class teacher, and you can see which of your students has done it. That's absolutely fabulous. Let's go and have a look at St Thomas More. Very good. Some work happening there on the 31st. Brilliant stuff. Bickercara. Some brilliant work. Love it. Pink October reminds us to look after ourselves. Oh, what a great bit of mindfulness going on there at the school. And you've also put some educational links there as well. That is fabulous. Have I missed anybody out? No, I think, yeah, we could go on and have a look at this. If you wanted to, zoom around the world and see all the different other blogs that are happening, you might want to go up to London and have a look at, for example, at some of the blogs that are taking place around London, about Birmingham, all the way up in Hull and Newcastle, etc., and see what people have been writing about. Some of them are better than others, but people have been posting all sorts of different things. Their ability to type, writing in Welsh, drawing pictures of a healthy plate. Look at that, absolutely wonderful. Things they did on the weekend. Fabulous. I had to balance the Maltese out with a little bit of UK blogging there. Please excuse. Okay, so that's the context. How did those blog posts get there? That's the really simple bit that happens here. As the educator, all I need to do is click on the moderate button, because it's telling me that there are 3 things to moderate. Let's have a quick, careful look at this. It's saying J2 Webby, because that's the tool that we're looking at now. And it's saying posts awaiting moderation are 3 posts. There's that blog, that's the class blog, and that's putting 3 in there. So what's happened is there have been 3 times that any number of students, Tanya did it twice for 2 different things. That's showing the number of things that are in the blog waiting moderation for my class that I need to go and approve and say, yes, I'm happy for those to go on the class blog. So I click on that class name, and it's simple. There we have that ladybird and the piece of writing and a postcards piece of work as well. So if I want to, I can quickly here, and this looks like quite a lot on the page, but actually it's very simple. All I need to do is say it's these posts that are waiting for me to be moderating. Who did them? Eli, Tanya, and Tanya, which class they're from, and when they did it. And I can either bin it, preview it, or publish it. So if I want to have a look at it before I go ahead, that's what it's going to look like when it's put on the class blog. So I'm going to say, yes, that's appropriate. That's all within expected guidelines of this particular activity. I'm going to publish it. And I can do exactly the same thing for the right which I didn't rename. Let's just have a quick look and remind ourselves what it is. Ah, yes, my day at the beach. Well done, Tanya. And I'm going to publish that. Now, of course, if, and knowing me, probably when I make a mistake, I could always go back and say, oh, right, so at the top here, these are all the ones that I've published already. There are 73 of them. I didn't mean to publish that last one. I'll do this quickly. I will just stop that one from being published and put it in the bin. It's not deleting the work that Tanya did. It's just going to take it off of the blog. And similarly, if you wanted to, you could put some of your students' work on your class blog, because you can go into Pupil Files, you can look at your class of students, you can look at their work, and then you can go into any of the pieces of work that they've done, which is bloggable, like this, for example. Go and have a look at Eli's work. Trip to the moon. I really like that. Eli hasn't actually pressed the publish button, so I'm going to do that for him. And I'm going to say that's going to go into year 3 and 4 blog and publish it, which means that that will then sit on the class blog.
Alistair, can I ask a
Yes.
question? Because we had an issue with that. When the teacher was publishing, it wasn't showing in the child's name. So I was telling the teacher, and Jeanette, I know, has been using learning conversation to tell them at the end, now you can publish your work. So ideally, I don't know if it's changed, but at that time it was better for the student to publish their work and the teacher approves it.
It is better practice for that. Also, you can change the owner by going into J2E and doing it there. So I can go and look at the class blog, and I can look at posts. And I believe somewhere I can actually change. Sorry, I can't do it. No, you can't do that for this, but you can do that for Bloggy, which is an entirely different tool. No, apologies. So yes, you're right. To ensure that the work is published in the child's name at the moment, I would recommend that you do ensure that the child presses publish for themselves first.
Sonia is asking you, can you please repeat the part how you remove published work again?
Okay, so let's go from here. Say, for example, you know, you were fine about doing it at the time, and then you suddenly realized actually there might be a picture on that blog I don't particularly like and I want to remove it. So you sign into J2E, and here is the screen that you've got. In order to get back to the blog, very simply, find your J2 button, click on that. As an educator, you will have the button at the top of the screen that says your school's blog. Just tap on that, and so you can toggle. If I just leave my cursor there and just click, it toggles between the dashboard and the actual blog page itself. I want to be on the dashboard because what I want to do is go into posts, just click on posts, and then go to published posts. And you could always search the posts for whatever it is that you want to search for, if you can remember what it was. And then it's showing you every single post that's ever been put onto the blog. And then you can just say bin it straight away. Or if you want to, what you can do is do a complete bulk action and say all of those particular ones, I'm going to select a few or select all of them, and I could move to the bin, for example. So I could delete 70 posts all at the same time. The bin stays there for quite a long time. I think it's about 90 days. So if you accidentally did something like that, it's reversible as well. I hope that answers the question there, Sonia. I keep forgetting I got my camera on. I've been pulling silly faces. Okay, so in the next, I probably have. In the next session, we are going to revisit this, and we're going to look at how to collaborate on blogs. And I'm going to give you some ideas for collaborative blogging amongst classes, by yourself, with feedback, peer assessment, and looking at establishing, hopefully, some quad blogs as well. So an opportunity to collaborate beyond Malta with schools outside that are using J2E2. So please do join us for that one. Going back into my presentation here. Let's just go back to, and everything I've done today, by the way, has been using J2E. Once again, I always try to put this on the screen. If you've got any questions, if you would like to have some further information, the support team are here from a technical perspective. I'm here to support you from a pedagogy and general inspiration basis. But if you'd like to also see what other schools are using J2E for in terms of collaboration and blogging, then pop up to the Twitter channel for Just2easy, which is Just2easy_com, or our website, where you'll see the Twitter feed and some further examples in our case studies and our news page as well. Are there any questions?
No, basically what happened to Janet was that she realized that there were the corrections at the side and they were visible on the blog. Do you want to explain more, Jan?
I understand what you're saying. So there were corrections based in the document and they showed on the actual blog site itself. Am I right in thinking that, Janet?
See the scroll bar at the bottom at first. I only noticed it this weekend, these holidays.
Okay. Janet, would you be able to tell me which school and which blog post it is so I can actually see
Marsa Scala.
which Marsa Scala?
Same 10, because there are two in Marsa Scala.
Say 10. Okay, I'll have a look at that and I'll get back to you through Tanya. Is that okay?
Yes, sure. I was thinking of telling them to take away the corrections and republish again.
Yeah, I mean, it will publish anything that is actually in that document. So I just wanted to make
publish just the page that is visible now with the frame, not the desktop also.
Not the outside of it. I see. Well, let me have a double check, see what's going on with that, and I'll get back to you.
In fact,
okay?
I was trying to create instructions on the side so that they work on the empty page, but they have instructions at the side. So in this way, now I can't use this system because still we need to take that away to publish.
Okay, I'll have a look. I'll see what we can do, and I'll make some recommendations for you.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Okay. Are there any other questions from the team?
No, that can.
No, that's grand. Okay, then I will wrap this session up for the moment and say thank you again to everybody for coming. Thank you to the whole team and also to Tanya and to Keith, as always, for letting me do this session. I do hope that you can join us for the next one, for part 2, which will go into more details as I've shown you. And wish you all well, stay safe and keep healthy. And one day I hope to see you all in Malta very soon.
At Marsa Scala.
At Marsa Scala, yes, at Marsa Scala. But yeah, this session is being recorded, so if you need to play back again at any point, then hopefully Tanya will be able to save that and share it.
Yes, we're sharing it all, like the others.
Great. Thank you ever so much, everybody. You all take care now.
Bye.
Bye for now.